Karambits can seem a bit ridiculous. They have a bizarre shape, a strange finger hole, and sometimes terrifying methods of deployment. Some are very utilitarian and can be quite plain. Some are quite beautiful and positively ornate. If you want one, there are good choices and there are some very bad choices. Today, we're going to look at two good choices that have very different prices. So today we are talking about the very utilitarian $100 cold steel Tiger Claw and the very ornate $300 Maxace Raptor. And the crazy part about these knives is that they both function very similarly. The cold steel did about 350 cuts in my edge retention test versus 400 for the Raptor. And both cut rope and tough materials very well. If you're looking at cutting plastic zip ties, they both do a very similar job. If you're cutting rope, again, they both do a very similar job of cutting thick, tough items like rope. They do fit the hand very differently, however. The Raptor is not comfortable in a utility grip where the cold steel is, but that makes the sacrifice of the cold steel having a lot of space between your hand and the blade in a reverse grip, whereas the Raptor snugs up quite nicely. So this is a lot better as far as a self-defense reverse grip scenario, but this does a better job of being a utility knife. One reason there is such a big difference in the length of the handle is that the cold steel has that triad lock, which is a very sturdy lock. It's the sturdiest one, tested very many times on the market. It makes the handle longer, but it also makes this knife feel a lot more secure as far as knowing that it's not going to close on your hand. To me, that's a big deal in a Karambit because this is essentially a guillotine hovering above your fingers. In any sort of self-defense scenario, there's a lot of likelihood that this knife is going to receive a pretty good spine whack. I don't want that to happen if it's going to close on my fingers. I think that a Karambit is the lock that needs a triad lock the most because just of the position of the blade and the likelihood of it getting bumped in that direction. One is also a lot easier to carry than the other. So the Raptor is relatively thick. Although it is shorter when it's closed, that thickness does make a difference in how it feels in your pocket. If you can see, the cold steel has left nothing inside the G10 liners, so that makes this knife actually very thin and consequently more comfortable to carry than the large size would have you believe. I know a lot of people are going to give me trouble for giving the win to a rough around the edges cold steel knife. And this is a rough around the edges cold steel knife. There's sharp G10 in the middle here. It can be sanded off. The pocket clip was really stiff when I got it. Again, that's relatively fixable. But I do like this knife, and I find that this knife ends up in my pocket a lot more than this one. And I believe that it is worth ending up in your pocket as well.